And then at one point she catches Miller like checking her out. And she's like, hey, do you want to take a picture? It'll last longer type of thing. Or I can bend over and pick up a pencil. And he goes to say something to try to like defend himself or try to get out of it. And she just cuts him off. She just says, whatever, and cuts him off. And she's like, no, but this guy was one of the hostages. I can tell you that for sure. We see Steve get interrogated. He says he's Armenian. They're like, are you Albanian? He's like, no, I'm Armenian. You're like, where's that? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I was born in Brooklyn. Or born in Queens. Queens. But like, and we see, Stevie gets interrogated too because she has the same body shape as the voluptuous woman. So they can't identify anyone. And then, the captain says, hey, you have a robbery where nothing was taken, no one was hurt. Nothing happened. So basically just bury it. Don't pursue it any further because there's nothing here. And as Fraser gets up to leave, he says, hey, we found the money in the check cashing thing. Do you want to know where it is? And Fraser says, oh, was it in my bank account? Was it in, my summer house in Sag Harbor, which is a funny joke. And then the captain says, no. And he says, I don't care where it was, because he knew that he had nothing to do with that. They're told to bury the case. As Fraser's going through the safety deposit records, he finds out that there is no safety deposit box 392. It skips over that number. And that makes him think, hey, something's up with this. How come there is no record of this? And at that point, I believe we loop back to the very beginning with Russell's monologue that he delivers in the camera. And then you find out that his cell, which you might have thought was a prison cell in the very beginning, is not really a cell at all. It's the back end of the storage room, which that's what they were doing in the storage room. They were digging a hole for him to use the bathroom. They basically moved the back wall up by a couple of feet so that Russell had a hiding place. And the entire time since the bank has been liberated, he's been hiding in the storage room in the back. Stevie, Steve-O, and Steve, plus the rabbi, come to the bank. Russell's ready to leave. He's getting his stuff together. He's coming out. You can see that they built like a fake wall in the storage room. He goes to leave, but as he's leaving, Fraser and Miller show up because they have the paperwork. Or they have a warrant to search box 392. As Russell's walking out, Fraser's walking, and they bump into one another. And they just say, oh, excuse me, and they go on their way. Russell gets in the car with everyone and leaves. And everyone says, oh, you didn't get the one diamond. There was like one specific diamond that he was supposed to take. And he says, no. He's like, I left it, but it's in good hands. And they crack open the safety deposit box, and it's empty. Except for, some trash, a gum, and this box that has a ring in it. And there's the ring, and there's a note saying, follow the ring.
Kim, director, hasn't really done much beyond this, huh?
She's in a handful of Spike Lee movies, too.
Really?
But yeah, she's never had, like, a huge role. Except for that shitty Blair Witch movie.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, the Book of Shadows or whatever it's called.
But she's got bit parts in like a string of Spike Lee movies, like 5 or 6 Spike Lee movies. I think just like the guy that was a construction worker, I think she's just someone that's kind of like one of those, like New York area actors that he'll call up and just throw into like a bit part. This was probably her biggest part in a Spike Lee movie. But yeah, she doesn't really do a whole lot. She's in The Deuce.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she pops up in The Deuce. She was like Method Man's like main woman. There's a scene where Madeline goes to cases like Gentleman Club, whatever that is. She shows up there. She walks into the men's room or the men's locker room area. She's there to collect her payment. And there's this great scene between them that I think is cross-cut with Fraser and Miller finding the ring. But there's this great scene where she's talking to him, and she knows what he's about. She had told Fraser to drop the case, but he refused. She tells Case that she threw him off, but she's lying to Case, because I think at that point in time, and it's pretty evident in Foster's performance, that she has nothing but contempt for him, because she knows what he was up to. So I think that's why she kind of lies to him about Fraser being off the case. He got promoted, with her help, and she wanted him to drop it, but she knew that he wasn't, and he was determined to keep going with it. So she basically lies to Case and says, yeah, he's going to drop it, even though that she knows he won't, because she is pretty disgusted with him. And he does. Case lays it out, and Plummer's very good in this scene where he just talks about, hey, I could see what was happening, but I chose not to do anything. The ring belonged to a friend of his, a wealthy Jewish Parisian. And he says, he was a friend of mine. I could have saved him, but the Nazis paid better. So that's why I did what I did. That's how I made my money. Was that bad? Yeah, but that made my wealth for me. And, she gets her check, and he says, hey, by giving you this check, I trust, hopefully you'll keep our discretion. And she of course will, but then she has that stinging last little bit where she says, oh, I'm going to go help Bin Laden's nephew, get some real estate. She's like, I'd love to stay and chat, but I'm going to go help this Bin Laden's nephew right now. And, he thinks it's like a joke. He kind of laughs. And she's like, yeah, we're listing you as a reference because he's a shitty person too. And the look on Plummer's face is pretty great as she walks out. He's really upset. He throws the checkbook. So she leaves. Fraser and Miller show up at Case's office the next day, asking him more questions about the bank. And, he's very complimentary towards them. And then Fraser starts leaning in on him saying, hey, we were going through the records. There is no box 392, which is weird. We figure that this has to go up to someone that would want it kept hidden, someone who would be in charge of the bank, or someone who was there when the bank was started. That would be you. What's in the box? If I can crib from 7 here. But, what's there? It's something bad, right? And there's a great shot where, Case says, oh, I can't help you. And then they both stand up kind of at the same time. And, they have that, Spike has that shot where they're kind of both leaning in the frame towards each other. And Fraser says, what's in that safety deposit box? It's something very bad, right? And Case just says, oh, I'm afraid I can't help you. Good day. And Fraser messes with him and says, oh, don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of what's going on. We'll get to the bottom of this ring. And he holds up the ring. It's on his middle finger. He gives him the finger as they're leaving, and he can, he shows that he's got the ring. He's like, I'm sure it has something to do with this ring. And then they walk out, and, again, Case looks really upset. And as they're walking out, Miller's like, oh my God, like, I've never seen someone like stick their foot that far up a guy's ass before. Having like a real good laugh. And then Fraser shows up at a restaurant where Madeline is having lunch with the mayor. And he goes up to them. He goes up to the table and he pops open the ring box and he shows them the ring. And then, sits down. And when he walks into the restaurant, he's got his hat on, his fedora. And the host, or the maitre d', is asking, can I take your hat? He's like, no, you may not. Get your own. And he sits down at the table, and he has the ring. He's like, oh, here's the number for the War Crimes Division in the State Department. He gives him the number and turns over the ring, and then gives Madeline he had a bit of incriminating evidence on her in case she tried to screw him. He gives that back to her and says, we're all good. And he leaves. And then the mayor is pretty upset because whatever he's involved in now is around these war crimes.
He's like, well, what have you gotten me into now?
Yeah. Whatever favor he did by getting Madeline into the bank and getting involved in this mess now is being turned over to the State Department. So he's not too happy about that. And then the final scene of the movie is Fraser going home finally to his girlfriend. And, he's getting like his gun and his badge off. He's taking all that, and he's taking his phone out of his pocket, and he reaches in the pocket and finds a diamond, a little small diamond, because it got slipped in there, and we flash back to seeing Russell bump into him in the bank, and Russell telling him that he was going to walk out the door when he was good and ready, and all that. And because they had that conversation earlier about, possibly getting married to his girlfriend, Russell gave him a diamond. And then it's Fraser, Denzel, like, kind of looks up and is like, oh, son of a bitch. And it just kind of ends like right there perfectly. Mm-hmm. And the score starts up again, which I told you before, I think is a great score. And then end of the movie. End of the movie. There's a cool, credit sequence where it's showing you all the players, which is really cool, and that Bollywood track comes back over the score. But really good, really fun heist movie. I don't know if I mentioned it. I don't think I have. It gives me really strong, like, Dog Day Afternoon vibes.
Don't they even drop that as a reference?
Yeah, they reference Dog Day Afternoon. One of my favorite movies. I know I've recommended it on the show before at some point in time. If you guys haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, check it out. I know Spike Lee loves it. I think that's what he was trying to kind of model this movie after, where it's kind of that same premise where it's a bank robbery kind of getting out of control and hostages, and it's going all day long, and it's like Dog Day Afternoon. This movie, kind of the whole reason for robbing the bank is kind of a noble reason. They wanted to expose Case for the war profiteer that he was. They knew that he was hiding something. And that's like, they didn't steal anything except the diamonds out of his box.
And beating the manager, that was real.
Well, that was because they had to prove that he was serious, but the manager brought it on himself by not giving up the cell phone when he should have. But yes, that was the purpose for robbing the bank. Wasn't to get money, and I guess you could say the diamonds, but it was really about exposing who he was. So good movie. I don't know how much justice we did going through the plot, but it's a lot of fun. there's a lot of really fun